Welcome to the Alita Army channel. This is Radio KAOS, the voice of the Alita Army, episode 10, The Deeper Meanings and Cosmological Relationships in Alita Battle Angel, where we discuss all things to do with the movie Alita Battle Angel, the source manga Gunmu, and the greatly desired sequels. I'm your host for this episode, Max Takjuro, and with me are Eddie McTrigger from America, Paulie in South England, Fox and Star may be on later, but we haven't seen them as yet. And our guests for today are Tamquam Leo from Normandy in France, and we've got Enigma Seeker back. Thanks for coming, guys.
Thank you.
So we haven't had Tamquam on for a while, so we'll start out with him. He's got his microphone muted. You need to unmute yourself. We won't start with him.
No, it's okay.
Technical issues are solved. Excellent. That's the way I like them. Okay. So how have you been, Tamquam?
I'm fine, thanks. I'm quite tired because I've been painting windows for all the week long, and so I'm quite tired. But I'll try to do my best to understand even your Australian accent.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'll try and widen my accent. No, the good thing is today I'm not the guy you need to listen to. The guys you need to listen to today are Eddie and Enigma.
So
how have you been, Enigma?
I'm sorry?
How have you been?
Oh, good. Last week, a couple weeks ago, I got my video up on Mars Chronicle.
Yes, I've watched that one.
Mm-hmm. A few spoilers. I try to keep it light.
That was quite liked it. I know that Johnny Ringo was saying that he really liked the opening for that one.
Gotta make it dramatic with that music.
Yeah, it was very dramatic. And
dramatic.
and Eddie, how are things going down there in America?
Everything's going good. I'm finally easing off on the work a little bit. I had a couple of days to be able to take some notes for Tamquam and Peter off their videos, so we can do a good three-way ping pong match here.
Yeah, it should be good. Excellent. So before we get into the ping pong, I should say there's Paulie over there trying to stay awake. He's got his pillow ready just in case.
Yeah.
The hope is that seeing Paulie's running the stream today, we don't get any storms like he had the other day. That's why he disappeared in one of our previous streams. So if he does that this week, we'll all go. So hopefully that doesn't happen. Okay, so want to get into the conversation quickly, so we'll just punch through the news. Obviously, the GoFundMe funds are nearly all collected. So that's nearly 15,000 bit over 15,000 US dollars. I think there's one still to come in. There's a little bit of hassle with the closing of the GoFundMe caused an issue with some of the last donations that were made, and so they had to be collected separately. So once that's done, then the money will be moving over to Open Bionics, and I believe that Tilly Lockie is organised to present that arm when it goes out, and Open Bionics are currently assessing people and working out who's going to get that arm that we funded. So that's awesome.
Cool.
I'm really impressed with the fandom that they got up there and did that. There was a couple of anonymous last-minute, rather large donations that I know that Tony knows who they are, but he's not on today. So but he's not supposed to not let anything slip.
Maybe it was Elot.
Maybe.
Maybe.
Or Landau. I could see any of them opening their wallets way wider than we possibly could. But there's that. Okay. So looking forward to that. That'll be a big day when that gets presented. We can all be proud of that. And of course, the big news for this week, if you're on Twitter, you couldn't possibly have missed this, that Elon Musk shared the image of the rocket adorned with the art of Alita Battle Angel. I believe that Francisco, I didn't get his last name. Does anybody know the full name of the guy who did the artwork?
Just something, yeah. I forgot.
I know he was working at Weta. I should have had that organised. I apologise. But he did a piece of art for, I think it was his supervisor who was leaving. and it was the image of Alita from the. Oh, look, there's the opening. It did show up in the end. There it is. There, so it's the picture of Alita from the Tune Dark, I believe, with the Bella song, and he redid it with Alita from the movie. So that's a very original piece of art there.
It's in the manga too. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's based on the manga image, but it's done as original art. Excuse me.
Yeah.
So
Get the coronavirus.
So that was fantastic.
Coronavirus.
No, it's not coronavirus. It's not here yet. We are preparing, though. We've started stockpiling.
Yeah. It's very early in your place, isn't it?
We don't have much down here yet. So, where was I? That completely threw me. So
Elon Musk.
It was Francisco's artwork, and apparently Johnny Sci-Fi put it together with the rocket picture. And Challenger ST's been bugging the hell out of Elon for like 6 months with this image, apparently. So he finally picked up on it. And sometimes that's what you got to do. You just got to be persistent, like we are being persistent in getting our sequel. But obviously, Elon's tweet was pretty major. He has 31.5 million subscribers. So that got us some airtime, I believe.
And then PewDiePie picked up on it.
Well, I'm hoping that the powers that be who could fund / greenlight the Alita sequel saw that, because I
think everybody saw it. I mean, Landau responded, Rosa responded, Rodriguez responded, Ed Screen responded, Kean Johnson responded. When Landau responds, that's Cameron responding. I mean, he's out there wearing the Pharaoh's ring. So, I mean, everybody saw it.
Yeah.
Let's hope it puts a boost in the DVD sales. It might a little bit.
Well, if there's any DVDs to get, apparently.
They're still out there. I've seen a bunch.
I actually saw a DVD at my local supermarket, so I was kind of pleased that was there. But apparently it's been a bit dry on Amazon and a few other sites. They've run out of stock, and the paranoid amongst us, I won't name names, believe that that's Disney trying to starve the supply so that Alita doesn't look as good.
Well, I think they just didn't make as many because they probably didn't put the numbers in at the first time. They've had a certain contract. Probably said, let's put this many out. And other movies that are bigger are going to put a larger number. I mean, they don't want to take a risk of putting too many out and have an oversupply.
Exactly. But also getting anything new from China at the moment is a little bit hit and miss, I would suspect. So there might be a dry spell before they get more Blu-rays out there. Okay, so that was pretty amazing with Elon Musk. So hopefully that will roll over a few more sales and more interest on Twitter and various other sites. Okay, and of course Alita has fans all over, as was mentioned to me last night. There's a lot of Blue Star people on Twitter tweeting about Alita. Even Zoe Solander commented on Elon's tweet saying that it was excellent that there might be a sequel. So she's on board, not on board, but she'd like to see a sequel. So that would be fantastic. And our last little bit of news is that we are going to have our first official person who worked on the movie coming on the stream next week. David, let me get this surname right. Spovalov, I believe, might be the correct pronunciation. I could be wrong. I've got to find out before next week. He'll be coming on for the first 15 minutes of the stream next week to talk to us about doing the voices of the Centurions. So if you have any questions that you'd like us to ask him, please, we'll have a tweet up from the Leader Army channel, and you can pop your questions in there. The obvious situation is that he's certain things he can't talk about. So if we ask a question where he can't go, he won't be answering it. But hopefully the general questions will be quite suitable. And we're certainly hoping that this will open the floodgates so that we can get involved in the movie on. So that would be fantastic. We'll keep our ear to the ground on Twitter and see who else we can control. Yes. Okay. Does anybody else have anything?
Yeah. Actually, I just remembered something that you probably should toss out there too. Mario, El Alito, he had just typed a one-word comment. He said, "Wheaties," and I said, "Yeah, Wheaties, breakfast of motorball champions." So I took it to Johnny Sci-Fi. Johnny Sci-Fi turned it into a meme, and Rosa reacted to that one over on Instagram too.
Oh wow! It's been a big week for getting noticed.
Yeah.
Nice work. So that's what we need to keep doing, peeps. We need to keep coming up with these ideas and just chucking them out there, keeping Alita in the news, keeping the buzz going. Although,
I also got YouTuber. Oops, sorry. I also got YouTuber Nostalgia Critic Doug Walker. He said he will probably be making a full skip video on Alita. So that'll be kind of cool. That'll get a couple 100,000 views. I think he's aware of it because he's been hinting Alita in his videos. Like, I'm sure he'll bring up some of the controversy, but hopefully not. But yeah, so hopefully they get a good video out there.
As long as it's more positive than negative, it's fine.
It'll be a fun video, yeah.
Should be.
Because he's a fan of the manga.
Terrific. Tanquam, you were going to work with one of your countrymen doing a report about the recent Gunmu event that was held over there. Have you heard?
Yes. Unfortunately, Laurent did not send me his report, but so it was the context. It was during a comic festival in the city of Angoulême, which is southwest of France. It's every year there is this big comic festival event. It lasts several days, like 1 week long, and all it's a major event. I don't know if it has a world reach, but at least a European reach, and you have comics from everywhere, every country of Europe. And this year, Kishiro was invited because, actually the manga sell pretty well here in France. At least it's the second world market for mangas. France is the second market, number two after Japan. And so Kishiro was invited because the mangas are very popular here. Are quite popular. And he gave masterclass about his manga and the links with the movie. And Laurent Kael, who is on Twitter, was really happy because he attended it and say, "Oh wow, it was actually it was quite moving to meet the master himself, And actually, he gave some reports day by day on Twitter. I don't remember exactly what he was saying, but if you search Twitter for his tweets, you can find the track of his records. Day by day, he was posting pictures, photos he took, and comments about the event, and it looked quite interesting. This, of course, is very good for the sales. For the sales of the movie here in France, and it's a good sign because actually, some minutes ago you were talking about the DVD and Blu-ray sales. I was a bit worried because in my local supermarket, I've seen some DVDs of Alita sold for only €7. It means they are destocking. They are pushing the stocks away. You see, and it does not mean it is in very high demand. So I don't know what does it mean exactly. Is it they are trying to push the last units they have, or are they trying to sell their stocks for before receiving another edition? I don't know, but I don't think it is too dramatic because the same happens for other movies too. So I think it's all okay here, and of course the comics festival in Angoulême. helped the sales and at least the recognition of the movie out here.
Excellent. So let us know when you get that information. You're going to translate it from French into English.
Yeah. When he sends it to me, I translate it by the way, and I send it to you. I promise.
Looking forward to it. There was supposed to be a lot of photos in that as well, so that should be interesting.
Yeah. I would tell him to add some pictures.
I already asked, but yeah, push for some photos. Photos are
Yeah.
Terrific. Okay, so news aside, we're up to the main topic, which is the deeper meanings and cosmological relationships in Alita Battle. So I'm going to now hand over hosting to Eddie. This is his first time. Be kind. So. Did you kill everything? There you go. Okay. Everybody comfortable? Got a nice cup of Milo. Milo's Australian. I don't know what
this is the Brexit. The British is going out.
Yeah. So Paulie's got his Brexit ready. So.
Well, actually, it won't be me talking so much anyway. I'm going to try to get the other two guys talking. If you're going to start with cosmological models, I think the place really to start is with Tamquan's video on circles and lines. And if you just talk to us for a minute about how, the circles are heavenly objects, the linear square type of things are worldly, the circles are always atop the squares, etc. And just cut loose.
Okay, what you're asking me is actually what I should have done before. I mean, I've made some 15 minutes videos. I should have made 5-minute long videos because the purpose was to give a quick answer to haters on the internet. And 15 minutes, it's too long. So I will give it to you in 2 minutes. The idea is very simple. The circle, usually in any civilization, it's about all around the world. The circle is the shape that means the heaven or God. Why? Because the sun is circular, the moon is circular, the movement of the stars is circular, and the rainbow is a circle too. So all the sky elements are circulars, right? So it's instinctive for us to represent the heaven as a circle. And it's the same everywhere, all over the world. And on the opposite, the square is usually the shape used to represent what is earthly, the place of the man, because of the 4 cardinal points, north, south, east, west, which are the same everywhere because they depend on the place of the sun during the day. The east is where the sun rises, the west where it sets, etc. And this is the same everywhere. If you live in Brazil or in Africa or elsewhere, it's the same, except if you live on the North Pole or the South Pole. But otherwise, you have the same 4 cardinal points everywhere in the world. And so naturally, the men figure out the place where they live according to these 4 cardinal points. When you build a house or any type of building, if you want to optimize the light or the warmth inside, you will build it according to these 4 cardinal points. Okay? So the square is for the man, for the earth, and it means rationality, control, that's very important. And the circle, and the opposite is the place of God, the place of creativity, the place of freedom, etc. And in the movie Alita Battle Angel, you have this. It's very clear. The Iron City is built, I don't know if it's a square, but at least it's a polygon that's clear. You see there are straight walls all around the city, so it's an open air jail. Place of control, stability, etc. It's like a safe or a tower, a fortress. On the opposite, Zalem, the Sky City, is circular and it has circular shapes inside of it. So it seems to be spinning. It's a place of movement, but I mean a regular movement, an organized movement. It's not an anarchical movement. On the opposite, Iron City is in a square, and inside it's a complete mess with all those tubes going up, down it's growing in a nonsense. And life in Iron City looks like an infection. It's growing in anarchy. Yes. So that's the main topic of that video. And between the square for the Earth and the circle for the heaven, there is an in-between shape, which is the octagon, which is halfway between the square and the circle. And it means, in many civilizations, it means the transition between the Earth and the heaven. And so you have plenty of monuments that are built as octagons to symbolize this, to show this place is a threshold to get to heaven. Like a baptistry, the old baptistries are all octagons in many places. There is also the mosque of the Dome of the Rock in Jerusalem, which is an octagon, which is very uncommon for a mosque, because on that place, according to the Muslim tradition, the Prophet Muhammad was taken to heaven from that place. So he came from he went from earth to heaven on that place. And you also have the Taj Mahal with the graves inside that are octagons too, and also Chinese pagodas, and you have those shapes that are very classical all over the world, because it's based on the natural elements, which are the same everywhere.
Yeah, I agree. It kind of goes to this idea. Some people call it like sacred architecture, but as someone who studies architecture, it's really basic architecture. So it's the basic fundamental building blocks of geometry.
Yeah.
And you see that from nature, and so the circle is a basic symbol of the divine. It also has a feminine versus masculine quality. So the feminine quality would actually, ironically, be kind of Zalem. Masculine would be an Iron City. Even though it's really a false heaven.
Yeah, and also I've seen another fan on Twitter has spotted that usually you have the symbol of Zalem, which looks like a star, and in Iron City it is topped by a rectangle. Okay, but in the Motorball Stadium, in the locker room, you have the same symbol but inverted, and the rectangle is down. The star is above the rectangle, and I think it's just an hypothesis. It's not just a theory. Maybe in Iron City, the rectangle is above the star because the star means the hope and the dream, etc. But it is topped by a rectangle, so it means, okay, your dream cannot get higher. You're under control. You cannot escape from Iron City, right? Except with Motorball, if you become the final champion, then you can get to Zalem, and so the control is lifted. But that's
even as kind of a false
it's
dichotomy.
just me.
Can you guys hear me? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure if I was talking to myself. So also like idea of the Motorball champions, in some sense you could say as Nova kind of, I think Starve Alien pointed this out in one of his videos, that Nova symbolizes God.
Excuse me, Enigma, not so fast. I'm not a native speaker.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Sorry. I'm very sorry.
I'm sorry. So like in Motorball, there's kind of this almost human sacrifice thing where you can go to heaven, sort of a false heaven, but you got to be sacrificed to the god, the Satan, pretty much, which is Nova. Yeah. And Nova means light or white light, and that refers kind of, you could say, to Lucifer in some sense. So Nova is that false kind of god, evil god, and they have to sacrifice your body to get to his realm.
So Enigma, according to you, who is the Luciferian symbol? Is it Alita or Nova? For me, it's Nova.
It's Nova.
For you,
yeah.
Nova.
Yeah,
well,
definitely.
You could say Alita. Star is right. You could say Alita does have a Luciferian archetype in the sense that she is kind of going against the system. She's rebelling against God, which is the false god, though. So it's a reverse, sort of.
Yeah, because they're inverted. They're inverted. Yeah. It works the same way in the numerology that Cameron set up there. As you get closer to Zalem, the number he assigns to you is getting lower. It's not going up.
Yeah, 00 for Joshua Gunn.
00 for Joshua Gunn, 99 Alita. She's not there yet. 88 is Adjicuddy. And some of them are just kind of throwaways. 77 is Ito. Actually, the lowest number assigned is 11, which is assigned to Shirin, the little evil Ark of the Covenant that Vector's standing in front of when he shows Shirin to Alita. It has the two evil angels on top. It's like a mock Ark of the Covenant. There's a lampshade on top of it with a light inside. If you look at it, the number 11 appears on top of it. I wasn't sure it was referring to Shirin until I realized that the one number I wasn't finding. I could find 11, 22. Yeah, I got these from Farm 22, the oranges. 33 is above the factory. 55 is Kanuba, but it's also it's Hugo. It's Hugo. He's wearing that number at the motorball scrimmage.
And Nurse Gerard.
He's just barely still more good than bad. 66 is also Alita. It appears in the same spot in her Hunter ID that 77 appears in Ito's. And when she writes 99 on her shoulder at the motorball game, if you look at it, if you're looking at that upside down,
she's seeing at 66.
She's seeing 66, which is telling us that she only makes it 2/3 of the way. Thank you.
Brilliant.
To understanding who she is.
And 99 actually in cosmology it refers to the angel number 99. So literally it's an actual cosmology number where it refers to someone who needs to take action, be decisive, and this is your moment, and seize it and change the world. And there's that's kind of the meaning behind the 99. It also has the biblical reference too of like leaving the flock. And then you're kind of lost, like this moment that you're lost, but you have to take that moment and seize it. And she jumps into the hole and takes that moment. Right. But the way I figured out where 44 is 44 is where Ito and Shirin are on Cameron's little spiritual, moral, ethical ladder at the time of their daughter's murder. Because from that point, Ito works with the factory to try to find forgiveness for participating, as he sees it, in his daughter's murder. 44 plus 33 is 77. Shirin goes in the opposite direction. She uses her association with Motorball to create more monsters, etc. And 44 minus 33 is 11.
It's 11.
So they never actually show it. They never actually show it to you, but that's where it's inferred in the movie.
Yeah, or maybe they leave it for the sequel, for another player during the sequel. They hold it in store.
Could be, but
I hope so.
Also, the cyborgs kind of also symbolize in the Old Testament, the biblical stuff, not just in Judaism and Christianity, but also even Islam and other cultures kind of believe in this idea of the fallen angels or these Nephilim, these giants, and different interpretations on that. But they symbolize kind of these kind of humanoid fallen angels, sort of. And Alita is sort of one of that. Whereas Grishka, when he upgrades, he gets more and more grotesque, sort of. Where Alita's her body becomes more angelic.
Yeah, well, actually, Tam Quan, you talk about that also, how the cyborgs of Iron City are very straight-lined, whereas Alita is very much in curves, and she operates in curves. And the one time she fails in combat, I'll let you take it.
There is only one time during the movie when she fails in combat. It's when she adopts a straight-line attack, and her opponent, Grishka, is adopting a rotative attack.
I looked at that scene,
she loses,
and I couldn't work out why the hell she did that. It made no sense.
But it looked
because
cool.
all of her approaches had been, like you said, curved line, coming from different angles, and she stopped and she went straight and screwed up.
Yeah, out of angriness. That's all. On a tactical point of view, the curve is much more efficient because it's not predictable or less predictable. Moreover, the cybers or the opponents she usually fights are not as trained as she is. They don't have tactics, or they don't have skills, whereas she has a very intense training, so she can make much more complicated movements, where the others just deal straight blows, very rude, very simple.
Well, she kind of does that
during
too, a little bit. She kind of does that too. Like I done Aikido, and I don't see as much like Aikido movement or the judo movement. It's more she's pretty direct. Like, and when she went up to Guishka, she was going straight for him to bash him with the hammer, and then the other guy like punching him right away. So, and that's that kind of in Panzer Kunz. It's a very, it's sort of that straight line martial arts actually, which is kind of the evil side, even though it's more direct. And I guess Joe Rogan would agree with this. He would just say you gotta go straight to them and don't do this weird kind of movement stuff, because ultimately the goal is to kill them.
Actually, she does do a lot of spinning and flipping and stuff too. Like when she comes off the top of that barrier to take Gariska's arm off and screaming "Hi-ya!" She's flipping through the air. She does that little spin kick after Ito comes in the bar, and she does that little spin kick and kicks the guy in the face. She uses a lot. She does use a lot of circles though, and arches.
You've got to remember about Panzer Kunst is that it's actually an attacking martial art. It's not a defensive martial art. So it will function differently from all these martial arts which are defensive.
Actually, somebody told me she is fighting a martial art called Wing Shui or Wing Feng, I don't know. But in my mind, it looks like capoeira, which is the Brazilian mix between dance and fight. You know this? I don't know how to pronounce capoeira.
Capoeira,
but
capoeira.
Yeah, maybe.
I think it's the pronunciation. It was a martial art that was developed for people who had their wrists in chains. It was very leg orientated.
Yeah, I think it was a more African martial arts.
South American, I believe.
Yeah, in South America though. Yeah, it came. They developed their own style.
And
Oh no, I was gonna point out one more thing I'd want you to bring up from that thing. There's only one use of an octagon, I believe, in Alita. Is that correct? At least the one you spotted. When we're talking about it as the portal going between the two. When she's on the Martian spaceship.
Exactly. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
There's one point. It lasts some second. Yeah, the handle there. It is in an octagon, and of course, it is a transition between her first life with Ito, when she doesn't know who she is. She activates that octagon. She crosses that octagon, and her true destiny, her true vocation, is revealed. It's like, for me, at the beginning, I did not notice exactly this octagon. But before, I was thinking, that scene looks like a baptism. Because she dives into the water, then gets up out of the water, and then she is revealed. It's revealed to her who she is. You see? After, I don't think... I'm not sure the producing team put all these figures on purpose. Maybe they were not aware exactly, but let's make an octagon because the octagon means the transition. I don't know. I'm not sure. But what I'm sure is in Alita, if there are cultural references, it's not as much because they wanted to put cultural references, but it is the people who made it have culture, or are cultured, and it is the language they speak naturally. So even unconsciously, they use cultural symbols or cultural techniques, or they use their own cultural patrimony or cultural legacy. You see, it's the language they speak naturally. They don't have to, because before making my videos, I was aware of it. You see,
designers use I'm sorry. Designers use precedents, and they're probably researching other movies and seeing the symbolism that from other cameras.
They did some, but to integrate the shapes or the meaning, maybe they made it naturally. Because before I made my videos, I was surprised in the news articles or the reviews about the movie, when there were some cultural references about the movie. They were saying, "Oh yeah, there is a reference to to Rollerball, to Terminator, or Speed Racer. It's pop culture movies, which is true. But I was thinking, hey, it's okay, but there is much more in this movie. There's much more than Rollerball or Terminator in terms of cultural references or cultural legacy. You see?
Do you think Yukito was aware of those other films like Rollerball?
Who?
Because that was in
Oh,
the 80s.
Yeah,
I think
Might
they
have
were.
adopted that. Yeah.
I'm pretty sure I've almost. I don't know how I think I know this, but I'm almost certain that he knows about Rollerball.
Yeah, certainly.
You probably did
When
research on that.
No,
yeah, because
there's a lot of different impacts upon his drawing that Yukito Koshiro had in the early 90s. He picked all that stuff up from different music groups that he was into. And yes, he knows all about the 1974 Motorball movie. It's one of his favorites.
definitely.
Okay, yeah, I knew I had heard that somewhere.
Mm. Yeah, that's for sure. And also the Speed Racer movie.
Yeah.
I didn't like this movie very much, but in terms of animations, are the circuit, the trail where the cars run, it looks like the Motorball Stadium. But Alita is 100 times better than this movie. Don't waste your time with Speed Racer. It's for kids. It's fun, but okay. It's 1,000 feet under Alita.
Eddie, you need to get that symbol on your replace a star with the symbol of Zala, another one.
Yeah,
that'd be great. And that what is that? Okay, that symbol also has some meaning, right? The mark of Zala.
Which one?
It's like in the manga version, where it's a circle of kind of a square.
Yeah,
kind of
it's a logo of a rock and roll group, a band.
Oh, is that what you're?
Yeah.
No, you're talking about Zapan. Zapan has the mark on his forehead.
Yeah,
of the
Zapan. You're
of
right.
the blue.
Sorry.
Of the Blue Oyster Cult. That's the Blue
That's
Oyster
right.
Cult.
Symbol. That derives from the Egyptian Ankhs too.
It was made specifically for them out of the guy who designed it for him in 1972 was working off a form of the ancient symbol for alchemy. In alchemy for the element lead, which is to say heavy metal. Okay, and they're one of the original heavy metal bands. So he made it out of that symbol, and Koshiro uses it the way Blue Oyster Cult uses it. In the movie, they flip it over like a mirror image, and I think they had to do that probably for copyright reasons that he didn't have to deal with when he was drawing it in Japan. But Zapan's got it on his forehead, and it's almost like his little anger meter. I mean, it's practically about to catch on fire when he's got Hugo up against the wall and he's putting his thumb in the shoulder. It's just glaring at you. Every time he gets angrier, it starts jumping out more. But yeah, they were a band that did a lot of mystical, lyrical stuff. A lot of it was written by a poet named Sandy Pearlman. And in fact, one of his poems he writes is about this mysterious figure who's shown all of human history by these divine beings. And what does he go? The name he goes by, I forget, but they say that he's also known as Desti Nova.
So that's where he gets it.
Yeah, that's where he gets it.
Yeah. Kishiro has worked a lot for making his manga. He's done a lot of researches. That's clear. And as the last 300 said, in his time there was no internet, so he had to go to a library to open books and to look in books. Wow, I mean, that's the Stone Age for us.
Yeah, that was my age. That was my age. That's what I did.
Apparently, Koshiro was a big fan of dictionaries, and he'd actually get German to Japanese dictionaries and English to Japanese dictionaries, and he'd read the dictionary and pick out the words. And that's where he got Panzerkunst from, and a lot of the other German phrases in his manga from the dictionary. Because he read the dictionary.
Maybe it's a Japanese fashion. I think it's a Japanese fashion because there is another manga called Berserker or Berserk. I don't know, but they have,
they had
in that time, some fascination for German vocabulary or German history. I don't know, but he's not alone in that case among the manga masters.
Yeah, well, the berserkers were the Viking warriors that would just come at you like crazy and didn't even try to defend themselves. They just attack you.
Yeah,
and
like
they felt no
kamikaze.
pain until they were dead.
Yeah. There's also another fan who is from Denmark. I had a discussion about this with him. I told him, "Hey, the term berserker is from your country, right?" He said, "No, not exactly. It's Norse. It's the same civilization. It's the same civilization. But actually, I think in those times, the Kingdom of Denmark did not exist, so it was not technically Denmark. But in fact, yeah, it comes from this area." And
all those were Viking areas. In fact, actually, Normandy, where you're from, is a Viking area. If you didn't know, I mean, it's a Viking area. It was essentially Normandy was given to a Viking.
The Normans.
The
men from the north, the Normans.
Yeah. As the leader was named Rollo, which basically is Ralph the Walker, because he was so big, no horse could carry him. So he had to walk, and they came down. He basically was run out by the other Vikings because he was a little bit scary for the other Vikings. When you're too scary for the Vikings, you're too scary. They gave him Normandy, and those Vikings Christianized and learned the French language and everything else. And 100 years later, they invaded England. William the Conqueror.
Yes, and they're incredible because not only they took Normandy, but very fast they adapted to the area. They learned French and adapted. They became Christians, and in only 100 years they became just the same as the other, not French or Franks. And the proof of this is when they invaded Britain, one century later, they exported to Britain lots of French words, right, Puli?
Yes.
In English, you have something like 40% of the words who come from French, from the Normans who were new French. So they were very adaptable, and then after they went to Sicilia, to South Italy, and also to the Holy Land. They created kingdoms there. They were entrepreneurs. Very bold, very.
Russia is named.
Oh, I just had a question here. I think Max Tech, you mentioned something about that the name for Erica could also mean represent Cain, like in the Bible. Do you know? Is there some connection?
What was asked was if
it's a queen.
If Nova is the devil, what sort of biblical character is Erica? And I thought first murderer Cain, because she loves murdering people. What she does.
Okay.
I mean, it's either her or Rackman, isn't it?
Connection or something. Yeah. Okay.
It's either her or Rackman. That's the two that I pinned that on.
Oh, okay. That just caught my attention.
So, maybe let's get back to the movie.
Yeah. We're straying into straight European history here. Okay. So after. Actually, there are biblical references. We could go into biblical references.
I have something to tell to Enigma. I don't think. I think Alita is closer to the Archangel Saint Michael, much more to Lucifer, because Michael is the battle angel. The battle angel, of course, the one with the sword who takes down the usurper. And say, hey, you pretend to be God, but actually you are not. Who is like God? Who is the same as God? Go away, you bastard! Right?
I could see that.
He comes down from heaven on the earth to save the soul, to save us, us poor sinners. So she looks like more than she looks like Saint Michael more than
Gabriel.
Lucifer.
No, I guess Michael's the battle angel. Gabriel's more the messenger angel.
Yeah, but she's the battle angel, not the
messenger angel from Muhammad.
Yeah, for me, the battle angel is Saint Michael.
Yeah, I can see that.
So, yeah.
Well,
And
I'll tell you that.
yeah.
Oh no, go ahead if you still got something.
Yeah, but not for now. So please go.
Okay. All right. Well, then I'll throw out one other biblical reference. Is actually the story of Joseph and the coat of many colors in the Bible. What you've got is essentially an old man who thinks he will not have another child is given a child from above, and his love for this child is so overwhelming, it's so boundless, he gives him a coat of many colors. When Ito finds the child he never thinks he's going to have again, holds it up in the air like it's a baby, okay, and goes down and turns her immediately into a little girl. When she wakes up and goes over, the first thing she finds, the clothing he's left for her, is the sweater of many colors.
Right. Yeah,
It's kind of leaning into that story a little, because that's probably one of the most famous literary stories in history about a parent showing his just overwhelming love for a child by giving them something. Is the story of the coat of many colors, and it's the first thing. It's the first thing Ito gives her. It's the first thing she finds to put on. It's the sweater of many colors.
Yeah, I love that wake up scene. It's for me. It's my favorite. I say it's my favorite because it's the most well done of the whole movie. That's my favorite, according to me. That's my favorite. And I also wanted to make another video just about this scene, that very scene, and the idea it was to compare that scene to a book called "If That's a Man," written by Primo Levi. I don't know if you know this book or this story. Primo Levi was a prisoner in a concentration camp during the World War II, and he describes the treatment he had by the Nazis. And the first thing is done to the prisoners is first they are naked, and then they are head shaved, and they are not given any food. And the way he describes what he says is the Nazis wanted to do was to diminish us and to dehumanize us. And in Alita, you have exactly the other way around. Alita, when she is found, is just a piece of metal, and few by few, step by step, she is brought back to humanity or brought back to mankind by Ito. And it's the same steps, but the other way around. She's given hair, she's given food, and she's given clothes. That's very important, and it mirrors If That's a Man, that book.
And that reminds me of, like, I think there's a connection with the book of Ezekiel, where it references like the Valley of Bones, and like Alita is sort of like, and she's resurrected, and there's a parable of resurrection that God breathes life into her. But instead, Ito is God's working through Ito, and he discovers Alita, brings life to her, and puts on the flesh. Like in Ezekiel, references the idea of putting on the tendons or the flesh on, but still in that full life until Ito gave life to her, as seeing her as like a daughter, and that's why he loved her so much, because he saw his daughter in her. So there's a connection with the parable in Ezekiel.
There's, but if you see, well, actually, what Ito makes, he gives him kind of only biological life, but she's awakened by the sun, not by Ito. It's like a heavenly grace going to her, and she's receiving it for free with her extended and nude bare hands. She has nothing to give. She only receives. She's extending her hands like this. She's receiving the life which is given by that blessing.
Mm-hmm. And she's given like a second chance on life to redeem her soul.
There's a lot of redemption going on in there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's a lot of redeeming. In fact, one of the things you talk about in your art video is the relationship between Alita and Hugo and the Pieta statue at the Vatican. Yeah, and how it flows along the same lines. Yeah, she's holding him the way Mary's holding the body of Jesus in Michelangelo's La Pieta.
Actually, it's not only in the Vatican, because here, I don't know how it is in the US, but here in France, there are pietas in all the churches.
Yeah.
They're all different, but it's always the same type, with the
Same style,
Mary carrying Jesus in her arms, and she is grieving. It's I don't know if they were thinking about the Pieta when they shot that scene. But
I'm
maybe
thinking a little less so. It might be just kind of coincidence on that one.
Mm.
But I think there is a self-awareness that, especially in the manga, that Alita's kind of symbolizes Christ figure, because in the manga it shows her arms are extended out in one of the pages, and there's a little bit of symbolism there that she has to be that scapegoat, kind of sacrifice herself.
Scapegoat, of course.
Yeah. 99.
She's getting out of the city to face the pan,
Mm-hmm.
to take off all the evils from the city. Yeah. Well,
And the idea of the fall, is a biblical reference, and it's really the fall in ancient traditions where it goes back to the ancient Egyptians and Sumerians. It's really not the idea of the original sin is sort of between human to human. It's more like a war between the angels. So she's fighting against Pan, which is sort of like a fallen angel as well. They symbolize the Nephilim, I guess, in some sense. I think YouTuber David Stewart, he talks about books and narrations, and he kind of explained that too, that there is this idea of, it really emphasizes the Book of Enoch and Ezekiel and the older kind of Jewish apocryphals. So, and I think Yukito was looking at that because there's other studios in Japan who are adopting that in the 1980s and 90s, like Gainax Studios with Neon Evangelion, I think it was. And a lot of biblical symbolism in that, and I'm sure he was aware of that, and he's adopting those ideas.
Yeah. I will. Before I forget, I was thinking about something else about that. I'm coming back to the beginning scene when Ido is lifting Alita like a baby. Me, as a teacher, in my experience, I've seen many students and many families, many parents, and I think the most important for a child is not to be planned before by the parents. It does matter, but the most important is the way he or she is received. If he or she is welcomed, that's what really matters. Because in the movie, when Ido is searching the scrapyard, he was not expecting to find Alita, but however, he receives her as her daughter. He was kind of ready to receive her, to welcome her as her daughter. And that's a crucial point. It's the most important for a child is the way he or she is received in his or her family. That's crucial. And that's she's receiving love, lots of love for free. It's for instance, with the clothes that are prepared for her, it means someone, I think maybe it's Nurse Gerard, someone have thought about her and has thought, okay, she is a cyborg, but anyway, she needs a dignity, so I will prepare clothes for her. She is loved. And because she is loved, she can love in return and love other people after.
And he sympathizes with Alita because he also was like banished from heaven, sort of. Ido was, so he knew that she must have came up from Zalem, so he kind of related, like, okay, I was banished, I need to help this person that was also banished, and
yes, compassion.
There's a connection there.
Well, and she's his second chance to do it right too. I mean, that's something. That's his confessional comes when he's explaining his daughter's death to her. That's when he does his confession. He talks about how he was his demon coming back to him. Amok was his demon. Okay, that's a spiritual word. I had given him a body of obscene strength. Okay, that's a moral, judgmental word. He judges himself. I needed to kill him. Maybe I was just hoping that he will kill me. Yeah, he's kind of in this thing where he feels, and he feels responsible for all the monsters in the world now. That's why I'm saying he's adding 33 to his spiritual state from where he was at that time. Did you ever find peace? I found you. And it's one of the reasons. It's one of the reasons. If you notice Waltz throughout the movie, he plays Ido as a very world weary, worn down man. I mean, he's holding his back like it's hurting him. In 2 different scenes, he's laying down asleep. In fact, the first one, when she comes back trying to sneak in, he's laid out on the sofa with the book on top of him, holding it like this. He almost looks like a carving, a statuary carving that you'd see in a crypt. And I think
maybe he's suffering for real. Also, he's not that young, you know.
Yeah, well, I think what it is I think we're being pointed to, and this is why I say, he might as well have been wearing a T-shirt in the first movie that says "I die" in the second movie. I think the only way he eventually finds this peace, I think the only way he eventually finds this peace that he wants is he is going to have to die to save Alita, like he didn't die to save Alita the first time. Got a problem?
No, it's not so much a problem. It's something that I can refer to from the novelization and the prequel novel. It's banged on about quite heavily that he's an insomniac and he doesn't sleep very much. But you see, when he's done something for Alita, that's when he can rest because he's done something to help her. So it kind of feeds into your whole, she's his redemption.
Yeah, his mind is...
he can't rest because he's an insomniac, but he can when he's done something for her.
Yeah, he's a restless soul.
Yeah, so that kind of feeds into that.
Yeah, his soul cannot find rest. He is a restless soul, yes.
And after, he sleeps after he has done something he considers good. He has done things right, so he's in peace. He can sleep. Right. Yeah, right. Yeah, there is plenty to see in that movie. Plenty to see, plenty to understand. That's great.
I just wonder if, and directors and the designers were kind of aware of that, like some of the symbolism. I think some of it they were, but maybe some could just be accidental, just natural, like you were saying.
And moreover, Cameron, who have written the script, has been thinking about that movie for years, maybe 18 years, turning it into his mind. So he kind of crafted out all of the things within those 15 or 18 years.
Yeah,
it's normal. We wouldn't expect less from him, actually.
Well, certainly some of it's intentional because, as I point out, the reason it's not just that 77 is the second 2 numbers in Ito's Hunter Warrior ID. When he's giving her the talk about how he won't turn her into a monster, which is what he considers himself to have been doing if he puts her in that berserker body, because that is the sin for which he is seeking forgiveness. Behind him, there is a computer screen that has 2 circles that are flashing numbers. Both circles land on 77 at the same time 5 times during that talk. So, I mean, the odds of that are next time you're watching it, ignore him and just watch those screens. It's bizarre. They just go fluttering off like butterflies, and they come back and land, and then they go and they come back and they go and it's 77. When you circle a number, it's like circling a date on the calendar.
It's a gift that repeats.
Yes. So at any rate, he definitely knows he's doing a lot of it.
There's a lot of Prometheus undertones too. I kind of see in the biblical symbolism as well. This kind of the fall and the connection between redemption and all that. And,
but actually, I think what's difficult is not to over-interpret this movie also, because we can and to make the difference between what's for sure, like the 77, if it appears 5 times and it's circled, okay, there is a purpose. But otherwise, on many aspects, what we are saying now, even if it's very interesting, maybe a lot of it is just hypothesis, But it's okay.
Like 33.
Yeah, I totally agree with that.
Interpret, you see. So unless if we have the answer from Kishiro or Cameron themselves, we can't guess.
Well, Kishiro, like for instance, Alita's Hunter Warrior ID is F33-405. Cameron changes that to put 66 in the second 2 positions, the second 2 numbers, just like he gives Ito a 77. I mean, there's some of it that it's too obvious that he's doing it, But I agree. I agree with what you're saying in that these people are so cultured and so schooled that after she turns the octagon to go into the Martian chamber, it's all in arcs and curves in there. That the keypad she uses doesn't have any real edges. It kind of curves around and things like that. That could just be their natural understanding of how you draw the higher state.
And it's the opposite of Star Wars, because when you see the geometry of Star Wars, there's a lot of angular triangle stuff and kind of more that masculine kind of architecture.
Yeah, I think it's a matter of fashion also, because in the late 70s, what was fashionable were straight, sharp, and aggressive lines. Today, what is considered modern or fluid is on the opposite, the streamlined lines.
And that was like Corbusier that probably influenced that.
Yeah.
And I think cyborgs are more clumsy and keep banging into the corners, so they had to take them off.
In fact, I'll throw one more out at you. If from your circles and lines video, you were talking about like in the Byzantine church in Ravenna, which is like the oldest surviving Byzantine church. The mosaics. And how the mosaics, you see, if you see a circular figure behind the head, it means they're dead. Okay, but the donors who are trying to become saints have the square because they're still in this earth. In the bar fight scene, if you've noticed this, in the bar fight scene, Hugo, when you said that, I thought, okay, well, then this is when Hugo truly turns around. He's going to try to start going in the right direction. After he comes out and hits that guy with the taser or whatever it is, and Alita says, thanks, Hugo, and goes spinning off to break some more bones. Okay, they show a headshot of Hugo for just a second, and he's standing in front of what looks like a rectangular stained glass window. His backdrop is this rectangular stained glass window. He's exactly in one of those saint poses from like a mosaic in Ravenna.
That's
I like the reference in the movie where in his apartment there's a sign in the back that says death.
Yes, it says parts and death with the crossbones.
It's so obvious.
That's what I talk about is the princes and the pirate
I'm like,
love
yes,
story.
they're gonna do it. I noticed that right away.
Well, when she kicks Zapan to the ground, when she pushes Zapan to the ground at that portico in the conflict right at the end, Zapan's sitting there on the ground. If you look at the other side of the portico at the base, the word death is written on the wall.
Look, I missed that.
There's all sorts of stuff all over the walls, and I think some of them are symbols. Yeah, there's symbols that like maybe the Chinese would pick up on that I can't pick up on. When they're in their alley fight scene, you'll notice there's a bunch of symbols in the wall painted in red that have lines through them. I don't know what he's trying to get at with that, but I'm sure they mean something to somebody somewhere else in the world.
There's something to understand there. There's an enigma. Look for it.
Look it up.
There's also you're talking about Hugo's bedroom with the death symbol. There's also another point is the decency throughout the movie, because when Alita arrives to his bedroom, she just stands at the window. She does not enter, and she enters when he is awakened. And after Hugo puts on a T-shirt, there is a care for decency in all the movie, even in the violence. You don't see the blood. You don't see the dog crushed. You don't see when Tanji is cut in half. You see him just in the shadow. They don't add violence or sex for free. You see, there's a care for decency. They tell the story, but don't add heavy elements or offensive elements. They try to stay decent throughout the movie, and for Rodriguez, that's an accomplishment. And when he is adapting Gunma, wow, it's another accomplishment because it's pretty violent. The manga is pretty violent, isn't it?
Well, he also had the PG-13 rating that he had to prescribe to. So
and that was probably smart, keeping it PG-13 I mean, just so you can get a little bit more of a teenage audience. Well, I mean, I guess Last 300 didn't like that. He probably wanted to be R and show that gore. I kind of wanted the gore too. I wish they showed the dog being cut. I don't know. I just felt like that would really traumatize people even more and really get people to like say, "Oh my god, did you see that scene in this movie?"
But you got to realize that there's a psychological level of not showing the gore that brings it into the personal realm of your imagination, fills that in. That's what they used to do in all the 50s horror movies. You never saw gore. You never had it thrown in your face because it desensitizes you. You get the hint of it. You look at all those movies by, what was his name?
Hitchcock?
Sorry?
Hitchcock, maybe?
Yeah, Hitchcock. Thank you. Yeah, Alfred Hitchcock. He was the master of getting you to fill in the blanks and getting you
suggesting.
And then that gore becomes your personal gore. And it's far more horrifying than anything you can have shown to you on the screen. Anything you're shown desensitizes you eventually, but your personal gore stays with you.
I think Yukito's kind of doing that. He's trying to desensitize people with his gore. He's like trying to rip up the bodies to say, "Where's the soul? I'm looking for the soul. I can't find the soul. Is it in the brain?" And he emphasizes the brain so much. And this idea that the Nova wants your brain, Nova is Satan. He wants to possess your soul. And this idea of taking the brain as your soul. And he's trying to find out, is the soul in the brain? And at the very end of the manga, he pretty much concludes that no, it's not. It's something transcendental and beyond that. But
yeah. And this economy of gore, of violence, makes the last scene much more powerful when you see the brain of Shiren.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
You don't have seen any blood throughout the movie, then it becomes much more violent and it emphasizes a lot the evilness of Nova. You see, you feel me? You see, he's really bad. Otherwise, if you look a horror movie and at the end you have this, you say, okay, he's just normal. He's just doing like everyone else. So it's and about the decency. Also, I was thinking as a teacher of teenager, and at the end of the movie, I thought, that's moral. I can recommend this movie to teenagers. I can tell it to the parent; they will be okay. Because I was remembering when I was a teenager. The fashionable movie was American Pie or Scream. You see, it's rubbish, actually. It was really, really bad. And actually, I'm glad that this tendency, this trend has vanished. And now producers or filmmakers try to make some more correct movies. Because Alita can be given as an example for teenagers. You can tell them, behave like her. It's good. It's a good way. It's okay. With American Pie, you cannot say this, of course.
Well, I'd emphasize that Alita's not a saint.
Is not what?
Is not a saint. So I don't know if you want to live up to her character too much. She starts out innocent right now in the first movie, but it's gonna get worse.
No, of course she's not a saint, but
she's to the manga, yes.
She's not. She's above American Pie, right?
I know. Giant Nice Day did a video. He's like, in the Last Order, Alita's kind of acts like a bitch.
Yeah, I've not read Last Order.
Oh, okay.
Well, if you found out what she found out, you probably feel a bit bitchy too. Come on.
Okay.
I'm not going to spoil.
Have you guys noticed?
She's okay. She's in the original manga. She behaves quite well, with virtue.
Still holds it, yeah.
Yeah, it's okay. We're talking about gun, about Badlands.
Even archangels have bad days. Come on. Hey, speaking of archangels, can I run something by you? So we've got Alita being compared to the Archangel Michael, the battle angel, right?
Yeah.
You mentioned, now I can't remember the name, but you mentioned another angel who was the messenger. Who was that?
Gabriel.
Yeah. Gabriel.
Okay, throw this out to you guys. Could Gelda be Gabriel? Because she appears in all the messages that Alita gets from her memories.
Yeah, you could correlate that. I don't know. We haven't seen more of Gelda, though. There's only like a few scenes. And remember, Alita's not the only one with the big eyes. Gelda has it too. So there's a reason, everybody.
Well, actually, the big eyes thing is something I was going to bring up for Tamquan too, because you talk about that quite a bit in one of your videos. How it was normal for higher spiritual consciousness imagery to have larger eyes until we hit the Renaissance.
Yeah, exactly. And we wanted realism, but in all the other traditions, you make big eyes because first it's more beautiful, the character is much more expressive, and also to mean, his eyes or her eyes are bigger because to signify he sees more than we do.
Exactly.
It's very simple. It's a very simple concept, but it works. It does work.
And look at this in the manga. See how they emphasize the eye? Like she actually has a near-death experience, and it goes into her eye, and she's seeing like her nature, her character.
That's where they got it from
That's where they got it from.
Yeah.
But it's also an alien idea of her nature.
Actually, someone on YouTube told me, the manga masters drew their characters with big eyes. I think they drew the big eyes only for innocent characters. It's a sign of innocence too. But they, what I was said, it's they were borrowing those large eyes to American comics, like Betty Boop. She has large eyes too. So it's
Disney originally.
Well, the Disney princesses, the Disney princesses.
Miyazaki was influenced by that.
Right. Snow White has large eyes, right? Because it's more beautiful and more lively with big eyes.
The men have more sleek eyes, kind of.
Yeah.
And that goes back to symbolism with the men are more the sleek line, whereas women have more the roundness. That's symbolic archetype.
Also, maybe for men, it's to show the determination, the resolution. So you are like this.
Yeah, like Goku has that kind of polygonal eyes.
Maybe, yeah. Yeah. So, did we have any other topics or fields or questions?
We've actually got a list of stuff here that Johnny Ringo threw in for you guys to discuss.
So go ahead and get Ringo's list out.
Okay, so
I'll look through mine.
Fair enough. We've mentioned Chiron's body parts in the box, so that's fine. The lines "I'm not your daughter" and then later on "Thank you, Father," and the change that's occurred there. He seems to think there's a deeper meaning between that flip. Do you guys have any comments on that one?
Well, Ito, eventually adopts her. Like he's an adoptive father, and she learns to accept that. I mean, I'm adopted, so I could relate to that.
Just making it all the more relatable.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's it. Really, basically, it's just, she's like an adopted child at first. She doesn't really feel like he's really her father, but by that point, she has adopted him back, so to speak.
It's deserving. It is built few by few throughout the whole movie. Thank you, Father is amazing. It's so powerful.
Yes, I love that part.
It's interesting that she uses the word father instead of saying dad. Like, father is a more powerful word. Like when you really you're writing a letter.
Our Father who art in heaven. It's a
it's more.
Yeah, thank you, Father. It's almost like the start of a prayer or the finish of a prayer or something. Yeah.
Okay, so the next one is Alita falling into the underworld, called the underworld, right? That's a complete reference to a whole bunch of different negative connotations within different ideologies. But Alita falling into the underworld hell and fighting a demon. Ido actually calls Grishka a demon.
Yeah.
So that reference is there. And then she's struck down and she rises again like Christ after 3 days. That they say in the novelization it took them several days to put her into that body because it was so complicated. So she rises like Christ after 3 days.
Or like Gandalf after fighting the the demon.
Balrog.
Yeah.
Yeah,
The Balrog, yeah.
it's the same symbolism. It's also an
It's a pretty
um
common symbol. Yeah.
how's
Overused, I
it,
think.
a test, a test to be
Superman.
admitted to the level of initiation, kind of initiation. You have to face your demon, to face it, and maybe in some way to be destroyed, to reborn again and better.
Well, that certainly happened.
Like a
Yeah.
test on your life.
But obviously,
Yeah.
the power of the Berserker body also has the other side of the coin, which we're probably going to find out about in the sequel. So, I mean, it goes both ways, and it's the force of will and the impetus and the desire of the commanding soul within the body that changes the way it functions.
Yeah, I think we can have the same problem as the one which is shown is in the Spider-Man #2. I think against when Spider-Man fights against Dr. Octopus, who has made an extension to his body, which makes him very powerful. But actually, few by few, this machine takes the control over him. In some way, he is himself possessed by the power of the machine he has implemented on his body. And there's this fight of who is the leader. Am I led by my patients, by what biological functions, or I am the horseman and the body is my horse. I am the rider. I am the leader. You see? And she can be tempted to abuse of that berserker body, which is so powerful. Can be a temptation, of course. And I want to see the moddable body in action, the one we see at the very last scene.
Yes,
I want to see that body in action.
I'm
It
dying
must
to
have-
see that in action.
Yes, it must have some special features because it's designed especially for moddable. So maybe it's very fast, or I don't know, or what does she do with the Damascus blade in a moddable race? Wow.
Well,
Must be
in my fan novel, that's basically what I was exploring because I wanted to see more of Motorball with her in that body so badly, and you don't see any of it. You see this beautiful, highly engineered, really like the Ferrari of
moddable.
cybernetic bodies, and you see her cut a tear, and it's like, oh my god, look at the control she's got with this thing, and then she rolls out and gets it in. It's like, no, no, it must be more. I want to see that. So yeah, I'm dying for the sequel to see that thing in action.
I wonder how she can flow plasma through that body. Maybe Takedo
I
has.
wonder if it's put on her, or is she taking her whole head off and putting it on there?
Yeah, the second.
According to Weta, it's
I
a
wasn't sure
completely
about that.
different model. It's not the Berserker.
It's not the Berserker.
And they explained that Ido can't fix the Berserker, so she can't risk it. So she's got to change bodies. And also the Berserker was the body she loved Hugo with. And she wants to get away from that. So she's got a whole bunch of reasons.
There's plasma in her hand at the very end, unless that. Yeah, I saw that. Yeah. She's a module.
I'm not convinced because the plasma generator is all the way up the arm because it's got the vents up in the top of the arm. So I'm not entirely convinced of that. I suspect that Ido reverse engineered it into the.
I have another theory. No. I have another theory. I think Dakido eventually found the notice in the Erm ship. He was able to hack the computer of the Erm ship, and so there he found the notice of the Berserker body, and then could understand how the plasma worked. That's just me.
They better hint to that in the sequel.
I'm sure he's good enough, he's strong enough to understand how it works with the notice. But first, he has to learn the Erm language, which looks like ruin or But he has time. He's very strong.
That's another thing that could be related to like higher beings. That the language that both is used in Zalem, the written language, and the Martian languages are quite different. They're almost angelic languages that are different from what they're using on Earth.
Or it is an elitist language, like maybe Latin or something like this.
Yeah.
In the top classes, they have kept in use, and it could be the same in the Erm or in Zalem. Before the split.
Mars is a paradise, I'll tell you that much. I always wonder if Elon Musk knows about Mars Chronicle, because he hinted to a prequel, and I wonder if he knows about the manga and has been reading it. Yeah, that too. But I think he was hinting. Mars Chronicle.
Yeah, we all want to know what this battle on the moon is about, don't you? I'm burning for this.
More of that from flashbacks.
Yeah.
And those flashbacks are something you see in the manga too.
Yeah. When I watched the movie the first time, I wanted to know, hey, what is this war about? It could be reality in 100 years or 200 years, let's say.
More like 1,000.
It's more realistic than any other sci-fi movie.
Yeah,
it could happen. It could happen.
That's something Eddie wanted to bring up, actually.
Sorry?
Eddie was talking about the timeline and how it should actually be quite a bit longer because of the time it would take to do the sort of work that Kishiro's got on Mars.
Yeah, that's actually out of one of Peter's videos. And I think he's right scientifically. I just think for storytelling, it had to be compressed because Kishiro wants to keep it in kind of the wild, wild west. I mean, Kansas City was, it still is, but I mean, it certainly was a gigantic rail center. It had rail lines coming into it through all the breadbasket of America, all that area. It has a rail line that goes practically right to Cheyenne Mountain. Okay, which is where NORAD is, which is where Nova's hanging out. And he wanted to use that Kansas City thing. In fact, we were talking about Rollerball and the movie Rollerball. I guarantee you another one he has seen that had the most famous sex symbol of the 60s and 70s in it, Raquel Welch, is Kansas City Bomber. She's a roller derby queen. Raquel Welch is a roller derby queen in Kansas City Bomber. I'm sure he saw that one too. So she's playing rollerball. But anyway, I think that's why he wouldn't have wanted to extend it anymore, is because there'd have been nothing left to relate the reader to in our time. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. Yeah, the reader can understand why it is in Kansas City and not another place. But actually, the shift to Panama City is a good idea, I think, because it has brought more colors, more light to the whole movie.
Well, that's a Rodriguez thing.
I mean, actually, I've never been to Kansas City. I don't know how it is, but Panama City is certainly sunny and colorful. Have you guys visited
in the center of the continent?
Yeah.
Have you guys been to Kansas City already? You know this place?
Yeah,
how is it?
It's just farmland around. Yeah, it's a city in the farmland region.
Yeah. That's what it is. Just a massive rail center where all the cattle would come in, where all the dairy products would come in from the north. You don't have to go too far before you're in the South Dakota Badlands. All that stuff that he wanted to mix in is kind of naturally in that geographic area, and it would make sense that of 300 or 400 years later and stuff like that was still kind of in a state that it's in, with all the rail lines running into it and all the farms around it.
Yes, yeah.
And another interesting, I'll just throw this out there. There was a early progressive author named Frank Norris who wrote in the late 1800s, who wrote a book called The Octopus that was very huge. And I know that Cameron knows who he is. In The Octopus, what it was about is the octopus was, the body of it was the big city, and the rail lines were the tentacles of the octopus. The octopus, basically, in other words, is Zalem, but it's still on the ground.
The resources.
Yeah, it's Zalem, but it's still on the ground. One of his most famous works was turned into a movie that was made by one of the biggest, I can't remember his name now, it's Italian, but he was an early auteur director. The 13 people who actually saw the entire 8.5-hour movie said that it was the greatest movie that had ever been made, and it's been lost. It was called Greed. It's kind of the holy grail of the auteur director filmmaker community. People have tried to recreate it. It's been turned into operas, all sorts of stuff. But the name of the book he wrote wasn't Greed. It was named after the main character in the book, who only goes, he never has another name. Everybody just calls him McTeague. It could just be coincidence, but why did he change his name from Murdoch to McTeague? And then I see this, Frank Norris, who's written The Octopus, which is essentially a 19th century forerunner for the idea of a Zalem type of setup. And, the famous movie he made, which is Lost, and it was based on McTeague. And think, did he give a nod to that there? I don't know.
I bet he did, actually.
There's so many nods in this movie. It's like watching a heavy metal band rock out.
Well, yeah, it's just an eye wonder. It's just an eye wonder. But I do also notice that McTeague is, as soon as I saw him in the movie, he's got on this like dark brown jacket with the fleece lining. Okay, well, Dennis Weaver, the famous old cowboy actor, late in his career, he plays a New Mexico detective, marshal, who goes to Manhattan and becomes essentially a hunter warrior up there. And his two jackets he wears are a fleece lined jacket and a dark brown jacket. It's like it's a mix of the two jackets. The hat style is exactly the same, except in McCloud it's white, and in McTeague he wears a black hat, and he's like a bad cop McCloud. Actually, that's Dennis Weaver as McCloud, and he almost looks like he could be McTeague if he was less clean cut. And the whole show in McCloud, he keeps wearing his New Mexico marshal's number on his collar. It's in a pin on his collar. His New Mexico number is 33. It's the number of the factory. It could all just be coincidence. I don't know, but that's where I get it.
Degree of Freemasonry. And I think
30.
I was thinking that there might be a connection with Freemasons, that maybe Yukito was adopting that because it's an honorary degree of Jesus's age. So maybe there is some like this initiated thing. In order to go up to Zalem, you have to go to the temple and be initiated. And maybe there's some kind of connection there.
Yeah, but eventually, anyway, they do a Simpsons episode where they did it in honor of Dennis Weaver, and he's this old cowboy actor who's washed up and everything else, but he was really famous at one time. And Bart befriends him, goes to his house, and he shows him this TV show they made for him, after the cowboy shows were kind of going off, but they still wanted him to be a cowboy, so they stuck him in the city, which is a play on McCloud. And the name of the spoof McCloud show was McTrigger.
That's where you got your inspiration.
That's where I took Eddie McTrigger from. He says, "Yeah, it seems like all I ever did was ride around shooting hippies," and he's driving down the street killing hippies as he goes out of his car window. But anyway, while we're talking about symbolism, now the Motorball Temple, though, you talk about that, Tamquan, the Temple of Motorball.
Yeah.
Gladiator Temple.
The only place where in Iron City where there are curved lines. All the rest is straight lined. There are the domes of the cathedral, but they are broken. So the ancient religion is now broken. There is a new one, which is multiple bread and circuses. So it's like a new religion with the champions who are the gods. The supporters come to worship, and at least. But it's these are strange curves. They are not regular, so it means it's a parody of religion. It's a fake religion.
It's
In my
keep the
mind,
masses under control, kind of thing.
of course,
So,
the opium of the people.
Yeah.
And give them something to worship. Give them something to worship because they're going to worship something.
Yes, and Rodriguez himself told it in an interview. He said, "Yeah, it's like a gladiator game, organized by Zalem to keep control over Iron City, to give people a place where their passion or their anger can flow out. But it's definitely a mean of control, social control. Definitely, it works. I think actually it works."
One reason Yukito chose maybe North America is there's a lot of reference to like Salem, the Salem witch trials, this idea of reference to these biblical kind of cities, and maybe he chose North America also for that country style. I don't know if there's some connections there, but he might have got that name. He probably knows about the Salem witch trials connected with Jerusalem and the old Baghdad city. And I think it goes back all the way to Atlantis, to be honest. I think the original name of Atlantis has a connection with Madina as-Salam, or that connection of that word salam.
Yeah, Zalem means peace.
Egypt, I think, originally.
What?
The origins of that Atlantis stuff and the old biblical stuff.
Yeah. But the word Zalem in itself means peace.
Yeah,
so
ironically.
The city of peace. Yeah. And also, Zalem looks like the Babel Tower.
Yeah.
Because it's a tower. At the beginning, it was a tower meant to reach space, to reach heaven, actually.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be connected to the ground, apparently, yeah.
Yeah. It's quite clear. And also, Kishiro mentions Utopia in it's at the end of the original manga when eventually Alita and Nova get together to Zalem. Nova says, "Welcome to Utopia." It's a place, the city imagined by Thomas More in the 16th century. It looks like it. It's like an ideal city where suicide is allowed and so on, where everything is under control. And so it's a mix between the Babel Tower, Atlantis, and Utopia.
Mm-hmm. Even when the city of Moscow was laid out, they tried to make as close as possible to a city circular layout of the interstate highways and all that. A lot of European cities are kind of like American cities, a little less so. It's just more wherever you can find land.
Yeah, actually, I think European cities are like this because they built few by few. At the beginning, so there were few houses or a castle and a church, and the houses, the people gathered around. So naturally, it becomes circular.
Mm-hmm.
And but it's not always the case. Yeah, I was thinking about this. Yes, that's right. In America, your cities are straight lined with parallel streets, and we have this in Europe. When the Romans built cities out of nothing, they made it like a square with parallel streets. And we also have this in France in some cities or small towns built around the 13th century. There are towns called Bastide. These were towns built out of nothing. They were just a field, and the king said, "Okay, let's build a city here." And they made it square with parallel streets, very organized. It means it's artificial versus natural growing.
Yeah, well, and American cities were laid out by planners who studied the European models of the time. I mean, in early American history, when they're laying out all these cities and laying out all these towns, they're doing it by what has become, the proper method of doing it in Europe at that time, which by that time they're trying to lay everything out in grids. I mean, I know, like,
Economical.
yeah, like in Paris when they rebuilt Paris in the 1800s, and cleared out a lot of the medieval stuff, and yeah.
Yeah, in Paris, special case because wow.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. Just I open a parenthesis about Paris in the 19th century. The second half, it's the man called Haussmann, who was the prefect, the mayor in some way of Paris. He made big boulevards in the city that are not parallel but circular.
Yeah, circular.
Yeah, big boulevards. You know why? It was because in that period there were lots of riots in Paris, and they said, okay, let's make big boulevards in straight lines or with long distances, so the gun can shoot more easily the barricades. That was the point. And it works. It does work.
The reason.
Yeah, because last year with the yellow vest protests, it did work because the yellow vest could be in some way wiped out of the main boulevards, but they gathered in the small streets close to the big boulevards, and in those small streets, it was much more difficult to take them out. Yeah, it still works. Yeah. Because it's very hard to make big barricades on large avenues, because you have to find enough material to build a very long barricade. On the opposite, in a very small, very narrow street, it's very easy. You take one car and one barrier up, you make a barricade very, very fast, very quickly. It's very efficient.
And now
okay, so
ring roads in everywhere. And now they're putting ring roads in everywhere.
Ring roads?
Yeah.
Roundabouts, yeah. I'm sorry.
Roundabouts are a big common thing now, but ring roads, I mean, roads that sort of skirt around the outside of the city in a curve.
Yeah.
So I guess all these things come and go in popularity.
Yeah. Well, I think Zolom definitely symbolizes that kind of Atlantean utopian paradise, but ironically, it's not. It sort of does have this piece. I know, like the character, is it Lu or Lao, and she kind of, there is some sense of peace in Zolom in the manga, but it's so contrived and controlled, and it's a forced peace sort of, and some of the people don't want to, be a rebel and break away from Zolom, as we see in the manga. But I don't know if they'll bring that about in the trilogy, or if they ever go a sequel, at least.
I wonder if we'll ever see the suicide booths.
Enjoy your life.
Yeah.
But it's everyone's right to stop their life if they want to.
And I think Yukino's bringing up, because suicide's a big issue in Japan, especially, and I think he's kind of bringing that social issue up a little bit. And
for sure.
Yeah, that's possible.
The suicide force in Japan and all that, and how Japan views it, and euthanasia, things like that, and abortion even.
But that scene in the deleted from canon ending, where she steps out of the thing with all the gears dripping with blood. I don't think it was oil. I think it was blood.
I think it was blood, yeah. I painted it as blood.
Actually, you don't know. It can be lots of things, because it's just in black and white. So,
well, gears generally are oiled down near the base, and you don't put a lot on there, or else it actually gums the works up. I think it was blood.
Let's say it was blood.
It makes more sense for Kishiro anyway.
Don't dig it further. But
he likes his blood.
People around say it stinks. So maybe it's more than blood.
Probably bits.
I think it's a mix. It's a blend of all what you can imagine.
Yeah, exactly.
It's disgusting.
Yeah.
And joy.
Well, we got about 10 minutes left in our timeline, guys. Is there any topics you want to tie up here, or should we sort of move on towards the learning topics?
we've pretty much hit everything I had in my notes at this point, because we didn't have much news tonight. So we've been on this for an hour and a half or so. So
we may not have had a lot of news, but it was quality news. So
it was big news.
Yeah.
No, big news is you can get someone from the movie, the voice of the Centurion, coming next week to the live. That's amazing. That's very good news.
Well, that's the thing about Twitter. I mean, you can get connected with pretty much anybody. And
exactly.
I get the feeling that a lot of these people are sort of holding back because of the NDAs, and they're not allowed to talk a lot about what's going on behind the scenes. But, you know, if they're careful about it, you had all those interviews when the movie was coming out where they talked about being on the set and everything. So I think you can probably swing it.
Hey, you think you could get him to do like the first couple of lines of the intro?
Oh, maybe he can.
Well, in the battle, in the Centurion voice, welcome to Radio KAOS. You know,
step aside.
I suspect that it was modified digitally, so
violation.
Audio art.
Threat detected.
Delivered suspect Hugo. Bounty number. No. That's amazing. And his name is Sobolov. So he's a Russian bot, of course, member of Alita army. He tweets like mad. Of course. Yeah, there's something else I'd like to add. It's when you follow Alita army on Twitter, on Facebook, and YouTube, you can see it's global. Because you have actually, when you follow it, you see many differences between the people according to the country where they are from. And so you can see geopolitics of the world in the Alita army. And also the topics that are the news, like I'm thinking about the fires in Australia with MaxTac, the coronavirus, and all that sorts of things. What we call, I don't know the word in English, we call it actualité in French, news. We can see this flow of new things coming into the discussions of the Alita army. We also have the Chinese fans who act another way because they are from Hong Kong or they are from China. So ones can tweet a lot, the others must use a VPN to be on Twitter. Except you see the geopolitics of the world throughout the Alita army. It's global. It's a global fandom, actually. People from all over the world gather to Iron City.
Yeah.
After the movie released, not after the fall.
A digital Iron City. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's amazing. On Twitter, you can really see it's a global village. It's very funny.
And maybe someday, maybe Elon Musk could put a decal on his rocket. I mean, I know there might be some copyright issues and stuff, but you know, he might just do it if it's a simple little thing put on the rocket. I don't know. You could get away with it. There's ways to get around it, but it really just depends if he's interested. I mean, if he takes it seriously or not. It could be a simple little decal, but I'm gonna keep mentioning it, and we'll see if he notices. Probably not, but it doesn't hurt to try.
Maybe if next week, if there's a Mr. Sobolov who comes, we can ask him if he is still in touch with people of the movie and what they are saying about the Alita army. It would be fun to know what they think of us, or what do they notice, what do they like or don't like about us. It would be good to know what they think about us.
Yeah.
But, you say? Maybe they say, "Oh no, this video I didn't like."
The question. See what he says.
Sorry?
We'll bring that up as a question. See what he says. We're big boys and girls. We can hack it.
It could be fun.
I was just going to say, I was scrolling through the Alita Army tweet list on Twitter. I was looking for the tweet that I thought had been put out for today's question to see if there was any tweets about what there was any strange connection that people had discovered. And I can't find it, so I don't know that it went up. But while I was scrolling through there, I did see a whole bunch of people tweeting, "Oh my God, why didn't I go and see this movie at the cinema? Why did I sleep on it so long? I'm just such an idiot. This is so amazing. I should have seen it at the cinema." Blah, 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 blah. I reckon if they did a limited re-release in the US of Battle Angel, you know, sometimes
you could set up something. I don't know.
you could probably, you know, just pick a period where there isn't any blockbusters from the mouse, and just pop it out there in a few cinemas and see how the water.
That could have some kind of
Well, I certainly think if they do the second movie, that they could do what they're doing with a lot of movies. A Quiet Place right now is showing in the theaters again in front of the Quiet Place 2 coming out.
Yeah.
I know they did that with the Ant-Man and the Wasp. They could put it out before they put out the Fallen Angel. They could run Battle Angel for about a week before that, or have showings where you can see them both in a row. They do that, and they'd get action off of that.
Oh, totally.
Well, I know they do release, like, in small theaters, they'll release older movies that's been out in the theater, and I've seen that. But they're cheap theaters, like $5 theaters, are not really big, but they will release movies after
There's been a couple of one-off showings of Alita Battle Angel in Europe. I heard of one in Germany, which people were driving hours to get to because they wanted to see it on the big screen again. So, I mean, yeah, there's got to be some traction there, I'm sure.
Oh, maybe we could do something.
Cool bananas. So, next week we've got the big watch party. So basically, what we'll be doing then is we'll 3, 2, 1 countdown, queue up the movie, and then we'll 3, 2, 1 countdown, and everyone will press play at hopefully the same time, and then we'll watch through the movie, and the people who are on the panel will be giving their director's commentary because there isn't one on the DVD or Blu-ray. So we will create our own director's commentary. I think it's going to be awesome. So hope to see you all then. We're also looking forward to speaking to David Sobolov. He'll be on in the first 15 minutes before the watch party. So that will be that'll be 2 big ones for us next week. So next week will be a huge issue. We don't actually have any guests signed up to the watch party. So if you've got comments to make about the movie itself and want to get on, remember that the Alita Army live stream is your live stream. Anybody who considers himself a Alita Army can come on. So sign up on the document linked in the description below. And we might see you on here next week if you're interested in that. Thank you for this week's guests for coming on. It was really enlightening. Enigma Seeker and Tam Quan Leo. Very impressed. I learned a lot of things. So thank you very much. And thank you to Eddie for driving that.
Thank you, Eddie.
So thanks.
Oh,
again.
yeah.
It was great fun. And sometime in the near future, I'm hoping, and I'm poking Paulie with a big digital stick here. We're hoping to get Paulie, Jerome, that's Zen Huey, and Moonheart X on to talk about creating AMVs. So I don't know when that will happen, but Paulie's got to get his finger out and make it, get the guys together, get a date, and we'll do it. Just like this. We'll pick a date, dude.
Yeah, pick a date. I'll bring my pillow.
After
I'll bring my pillow with me for that one.
After the 7th, man. After the 7th. Paulie, are you still doing your live stream tomorrow about working on the that video that you're working on? You want to plug that? Okay. As I've said previously, the people who work hard on creating content, fan content for Alita They do put a lot of hours, a lot of time, a lot of effort. I know that I'm struggling a little bit with my writing at the moment, trying to get the next chapter of my fan novel out. So anytime that you do watch a YouTube video put out as fan content, or reading any posts, or looking at fan novels, hint, hint, please leave a comment. Tell us what you liked and what you didn't like. We're always attempting to improve it. And of course, your ideas might end up going into the next one. So please let us know. Please let us know what you think. Please give us your ideas, and please comment, because it drives us onwards. We don't want to exist in a little bubble without any idea what's going on, like Yukito Kishiro did when he first started doing the manga. So please comment on all the videos, like, subscribe, get on there, be part of the community, and let us know what you think. That would be great. And thank you all our listeners for joining us. You are the ones that make the fandom special. We do all this for you. So we're hoping that you'll be part of it, you'll get on board, and we're going to keep promoting for that sequel. So as we always say at the end of the stream, 3, 2, 1.
Buy
those Blu-rays, baby.
That's the one, if you can find them. And let those banners fly, as somebody put on the end of my notes here. Okay, thank you very much, and see you next week for the watch party. Bye for now.
See you guys.
Oh.